Adams.
Here.
Adamley.
Here.
Adamowski. Adamson.
Here.
Adler.
Here.
Anderson. Anderson.
Here.
Bueller. 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 Bueller.
He's sick. My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid is going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night.
That's one of my favorite movies. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Bueller. What does that have to do with cybersecurity? Well, we're talking cybersecurity education. And when I think of education, it's kind of the first movie that comes to mind. Like anytime anybody says something about school or something like that, I'm always thinking Bueller or Classroom. Anyway, we're talking cybersecurity education and some other things coming up on OT Exposed Raw. What's up, everybody? Welcome again to OT Exposed Raw. Kind of depressed this week. Why? Because I'm missing out on Black Hat and DEF CON. They're going on this week. And it's been a long time since I've been live. It's been a long time since I've been there because of the COVID thing. This is the first time they're back, and I didn't get to go. So I'm watching on my Discord channels and my Slack channels and Twitter tweets. All my colleagues and friends are out there having a good time and going to parties and going to LineCon, and I'm sitting back here stuck with Pascal. You know that it reminds me of, you ever seen this TV series Lost? Whenever poor Robert was a kid and his dad was like, when his mom died and he's like, I'm stuck here with you. That's kind of how I feel about Pascal. So I'll welcome him here in a minute, but I'm going to sit here and talk about him behind his back before he gets a chance to defend himself. But anyway, I'm wearing my as a consolation prize to myself, I'm wearing my DEF CON hat, but kind of wear that every episode anyway. But I am wearing my favorite. See if you can see it here. It's my favorite DEF CON shirt. It's the ones that we had made for DEF CON 25. It's the legend. It's Link holding the "It's dangerous to hack alone. Take this." And he's holding the what is it? The Jolly Roger or the anyway. It's the DEF CON symbol, the crossbones. I guess if I have to, I'm going to go ahead and welcome in our co-host with almost the most, Pascal.
Hey, happy Friday.
What's up, man?
I love you too, man. We should have gone together. You said all of my colleagues and friends are gone. At least one of those includes me, and I'm not there. As you can see, I'm home again, and I'm trying my best in getting that Hawaiian shirt.
You know what?
You're talking about?
You're right. Because right. Not all of my colleagues and friends, but look, I guess I meant locally. I'm speaking specifically of my local DC 713 group, the local DEF CON group that I hang out with. So I've been real bad about keeping up with them during COVID anyway. But no, I didn't make it. I know we as a company, right? We as a company, we all wanted to go, and it just didn't work out with timing and COVID and all of that. But you know what? This is an episode where I am drinking. Because I should be at DEF CON, and I apologize that I'm drinking shitty light beer, but there's a reason for that. I'm cooking a brisket.
Keep up longer. You can keep up longer.
Yeah, I can't drink. Yeah, I can't hold my liquor. That's for sure. No, actually, I'm cooking a brisket this weekend, and so I'm going full redneck. What do they say? Never go full redneck. Anyway, never go full redneck. Anyway,
once you go redneck, you're never going to go back.
Yeah, well, I didn't go back. Anyway, so I'm drinking redneck beer to go with my redneck brisket this weekend. So that's what I'm doing. So judge me if you will. Anyway, this week, we do have some news items to cover, but we got, just like last week, we had somebody from industry, a vendor come in, and we really talked more about kind of the vendor perspective. We're going to do something a little different this week as well.
Yeah, that turned out nice. It was just a little different approach to the talks. So that's going to be awesome.
And well, one of the things that we never really get a chance to do, because there's not a lot of education, workforce development, academics and stuff in the news. And even though this show talks about the news, we're going to mix it up again this week. And we have a guest on that can help us with talking about some cybersecurity education, workforce development. I know that's a big topic. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's bring on our guest this week. So special guest, and I'll let him introduce himself here in a minute with his new title and all that jazz. But our special guest, he's not from the Game of Thrones variety, and he's not from the Marvel variety, but he is our own cybersecurity Avenger. Let's welcome Adam Stark.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Now, thank you for being here. Oh, what? Oh, go ahead.
You used one of my favorite movies, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Do you remember what pretty famous actor had a cameo role in that with Jennifer Grey? In the police
Charlie
station?
Sheen.
Yes, Charlie Sheen. A young Charlie Sheen.
Yeah, young Charlie Sheen. He was the dope head.
Uh-huh. Do you remember what she
said? Winner.
You say Ferris Bueller, you lose a testicle. Yes.
Nice.
I watched that movie way too much. That was a great movie. It was one of my favorites.
So you let's get a proper introduction. So now you've been promoted, right? So
yes,
you are from Seminole State College of Florida.
And
you are now we'll talk about that in a minute. Yep.
Yes.
You are now the Dean of
Engineering and Computer Technology. So
awesome.
I just moved from being the program manager, which is a department chair for networking and cybersecurity. So now I'm over the whole department.
Outstanding. And congratulations on that. And so, and let's do this. Let's reverse it. Normally we talk about news first. I'm gonna hold the news items until the end of the show this time, and let's just jump right into some cybersecurity education and workforce development. And let's start off. First, let's talk about it. And obviously, Pascal and I were talking backstage before the show, and Pascal was really interested in hearing from you because just like myself, when we were first starting out in this industry or in tech, we didn't have the educational opportunities in cybersecurity that we do now. And so we're interested to kind of hear about that and where things are. So why don't we talk a little bit about kind of the state of the industry? And a lot of people consider kind of skills gap to be, well, quite frankly, kind of considered to be a buzzword, right? But I mean, now it's the truth. We come from a place recently of having a huge skills gap in cybersecurity, but now there's a lot more opportunities in education. And so before we get into specifically at Seminole State, let's talk about, what you guys feel, where are we with the industry and cybersecurity education and just workforce development? People, where are we at? What's the status? What's the state of our cybersecurity skills force?
This was actually right up my alley of what I did my dissertation on. When I wrote my dissertation, which is
not planned, by the way, that this was a random question.
Yeah. Yes. So it was when it's your final product when you get your Ph.D. And I bounced around from topic to topic, and I landed on training and education for cybersecurity of IT professionals. And the common thought was, oh, you're an IT person. You must know all about cybersecurity. And what I found out was that a lot of what people who were already working in IT, they had sort of a colloquial type, they learned from their own experiences about what to do with cybersecurity. Very rarely, and now I got my PhD in 2017, so I mean that's almost 5 years ago. Very rarely were there a set of standardized practices and procedures that IT people in a group were following. Now, a lot of that we figured out that we need to have standardized policies and procedures, but IT people were just making, well, I've done it for this many years and it's always worked this well, and it's worked so far. It's served us this thus far. So you talk about that skill gap, and that's really the problem. is finding people to fill those jobs, and that's the difficult part. And not only finding people, because I work in higher education. When we go to hire someone, let's say we try and hire a cybersecurity professional, we want to get one cybersecurity professional to come work and defend the college. Well, we're going to offer to pay them $60,000, maybe $70,000. Guess how much money they could go working, quote unquote, in the real world? They could easily turn around and make double that. So a lot of
as long as they get the experience, right? As long as they get the experience and the skill set, I would think that not every entry level college grad is going to go make 60, 70.
Oh no,
I'm going to think. I say every security person out there who wants to be a decent security person should at least have some sort of a college protection, work in a college environment on their resume, because that's where you find just about anything that can go wrong is going to go wrong on a college network.
Well, and as part of my research, I met with a C-level executive, and their point to me was they could ask for a blank check. They could say, give me a blank check from the board of trustees, give me as much money as you can throw at it, and I cannot guarantee you perfect security. Because we as IT professionals, and we have to be right 100% of the time. As an attacker or a malicious actor, you only have to be right one time.
Yep.
Who's got the odds in their favor in that situation? So the deck is stacked against us. And then you do it with limited budgets and limited staffing, and you've just compounded the problem.
So what are the different things that are out there? Like when you see, not including just Seminole State College of Florida, but when you talk to other colleagues in your industry, other program managers and chairs and deans, and what are the different things, just kind of a broad scale that you see, and Pascal weigh in too, like what are the things that we're all seeing out there that are going into these cybersecurity programs? Because in general, cybersecurity programs at colleges and universities, in terms of degree programs, are relatively new. And so, it's a specialty, right? So what are some of the things we're seeing out there in general that colleges and universities are offering? Because before, if you wanted to get into cybersecurity, you got your degree in whatever, but then you had to go take training, get certifications, get your, remember the MCISP. And so, you had to go get those things. What are colleges and universities doing now in terms of being able to compete with a more training-based continuing education program type thing?
You want to go first, Pascal, or you want me to?
So I don't have a direct answer to that, but what I think that should happen, and I'm hoping that you can shed some light on there, is that I think on college level, or maybe even before that, but in college, in education, I think cybersecurity should be baked in from the ground up, just like you do in the real world, right? If you do a course on programming, Python or C++, whatever, a large part of it should be cybersecurity awareness and how to program proficiently and with security in mind. Apart from that, I think there should be courses that are purely cybersecurity related, either offensive or defensive as well.
Well,
I find that offensive.
Yeah, I bet you do.
You nailed it, and it's one of those great buzzwords that you love. But we in higher ed love our silo. Well, we're in IT, we work in our area. You're in liberal arts, you stay over there with your books.
Yes.
So I agree with you in the programming courses, but what I've taken it upon myself to do is to spread the cybersecurity concepts to the business school. So let's take it to the people who are doing management classes. Let's and with legal classes. So now we don't teach them the nuts and bolts of cybersecurity, but we teach them the concepts, some of the vocabulary, so that they're at least well versed. The do's and don'ts. Just a couple weeks ago, I met with our campus security group. These are the individuals who are our private security. They walk around campus and they make sure that nobody's stealing stuff. But guess what? They're in all of our buildings. They're in and around all of our classrooms. They interact with our faculty and with our students. And what's the first part when you open up that CISSP book to study? It's all about physical security. So if we educate them on tailgating, where people are nice and hold open doors, it's the classic example of you pay an outside consultant to go around with a flash drive who who act like you belong, looks
Yep.
like an IT professional, but they have nothing to do with the college. So just trying to spread that message across a baseline to get everyone conversant in the same language. Because again, when I was doing my research, it came up that a lot of people think, well, security's not in my title, therefore it's not my job, I don't have to deal with it. Well, we're at the point where security is all of our problems now.
I love that approach. You know, that maybe the next workforce, the next executives coming out there, they actually know that security is part of doing business.
Yes.
Instead of people now, they're like, "What? We need to pay for security? Oh, where's the benefit in that?" Yeah, I love it.
And unfortunately, guess what changes things? People get hit in the wallet, and then they wake up and go, "Oh, now we
Yep.
got to start paying attention to this." So yes, your next flight of executives will start to be knowledgeable in this area. You're right. You're
And
exactly right.
even then, right, with with not security, with insurance still paying out a lot of times, that doesn't even that's not even a factor at the moment.
No. And you can get all the security payouts in the world, but if you can't get your business back up and running, it doesn't matter. It's like living on a house on the beach. If you keep getting hit by hurricanes and you keep getting flooded, eventually your insurance isn't going to cover that.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah, you become a high
Time to
risk and they
move.
stop covering.
Yeah, you got to move.
Yeah. So, there's a big difference between post or continuing education or post school training, like the institutes and just training classes for cybersecurity,
Mhm.
and then the academic educational side, and then the workforce development side. Talk to me a little bit about the difference between a traditional university and cybersecurity programs and more of a workforce development type program.
So this is part of why I love my job so much. So Florida is really unique in the fact that Florida has two distinct higher education systems. Florida has the university system, which are your Florida States, your Floridas, your University of South Florida, your big schools. And then they have the Florida college system, which 28 community colleges spread across the state of Florida. I think it's almost one per every county. And our job, when we were first established, we were not allowed to offer bachelor's degrees. But the universities
that's common with a lot of like community colleges historically, and now that's changing up.
And the big guys, the universities initially didn't want that competition. Well, guess what? They figured out there's more than enough, and they came to us and said, please offer these bachelor's degrees. So what we can do is that your average student who goes to a Florida State is 18 years old, coming out of mommy and daddy's house. Mommy and daddy are paying the bill. They're living on campus.
In the basement.
Yeah.
Hackers in basement.
Well, I'd love that at the basement, but we can't have basements in Florida. But yes.
Same as Texas.
So, but my average student, and you talk about workforce development, is somebody who's underemployed, underpaid. They're 30 years old. They have a family. They have kids. They have a full-time job, and they want to improve their situation. So we have a lot of military, either former military or active military. I do a lot of calls with students who they call me and they're standing like, oh yeah, I'm in Kuwait right now outside the barracks. I'm helping them schedule their classes. So what we do is not only do we have your traditional associate's degrees, which are your 2-year degrees that can then feed into 4-year degrees, but we have specific college credit certificates where you take a grouping of 4 classes, and these are 4 technically related classes. You're not taking English, you're not taking poli-sci, you're taking 4 direct related courses in whatever your technical field is, cybersecurity for this example. So you're starting out with a programming 1 class, learning how to program securely in Java. You're taking a class, basic networking, which also leads to the Net Plus certification. And then you're taking a security course, which leads to the Security Plus certification. And then from there, you can move on up to Certified Ethical Hacker. So not only did you, in the course of less than a year, get this certificate, but our courses come baked in with those certifications that lead to the end.
Nice.
And I'm sure we all had to take exams for our courses, but I don't want you to take an exam just to take an exam. So if you choose to go take that Security Plus test at the end of my class, that's your final exam. You don't have to take the final exam. you got 100 points on the final exam. You proved to me that you passed it. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And that's where we're a little bit different, is we have the flexibility to say, let's get those real world skills.
And by the way, the reason I'm not hitting Adam with shameless plug and sales pitch banners is because we purposely wanted to give him the freedom to talk openly about his program at Seminole State College of Florida, and also, speak freely about what he's doing and what's working and what's not, without the shame of the shameless plug. Kind of like last week when we were talking with the vendors. And so, but I will admit that because I will, Adam is a customer of ours, and he uses red versus blue. So I am going to be the shameless plug perpetrator. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be the shameless plug perpetrator.
I don't. Since when did we start drinking with this one as well? You just take any excuse to.
I'm celebrating. I'm not just drinking. But anyway, and so at some point I will kind of ask a little bit about how he's doing that and everything. So that's why we're not hitting him with the shameless plugs. Shameless plugs are going to be me.
Well, I met with a student who wasn't even one of my students, was going to a graduate school, trying to get into medical school. And he said to me, he's like, "Why are you so upbeat about this?" I said, "Because I'm a teacher." He goes, "Oh, you sell higher education." So yes,
What?
I do shameless plugs.
But it's for the benefit of everybody, right? It's an understatement that we need people to help us secure all aspects of cybersecurity. And I think what you're doing is a community benefit.
Well,
So that's not a shameless plug, in my opinion.
One of the reasons why I love my jobs, I'm not selling a widget. I'm selling my
You're
students.
selling the people who are going to make widgets. But
You're creating the product that are going to sell themselves.
Yes, and I'm okay with that because I can sell that.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the difference between, and you've already alluded to it, but real quick, I want to enunciate the difference between a traditional and by the way, when it comes to traditional universities, and I know that they're a lot more academic and they have a lot more of the stuff, and there are a lot of great university programs out there too, in terms of hands-on, like, and specifically OT, ICS cybersecurity, right? So we work a lot here with the University of Houston. Dr. Art Conklin has a great program for cybersecurity, a master's program, and then OT cybersecurity. They have like an ICS wall and everything like that. We have a great relationship with a lot of his students. We try to hire his students. So there's a great university program, but I think that for the most part, it takes good leadership. It takes a good leader of that program, the program manager or a dean of that college, to implement a really good program. And I think those universities that do that actually have more of the workforce development mindset than a traditional university. So what are some of you kind of outlined it, and I want to enunciate it. So, you said you typically have an older base age-wise, and you're getting certifications while you're going through the educational process, and it's not a bunch of the poli-sci and English classes, but it's just what you need. So would you still encourage, I imagine you still have younger students too, right? I mean, because like if there's an 18-year-old out of high school and they're looking for a cybersecurity degree, why, and I know the answer, and I think but I want to talk about why would they choose to go to a more of a college program like yours as opposed to a full-scale university?
So that's great. So we don't dislike the big guys. We actually have direct articulation agreements where you graduate with our bachelor's, you get automatic enrollment into cybersecurity master's programs at Florida State and University of South Florida. So we work with them as well. But why? So I went the big schools. I went to Purdue University, and then I went to University of Florida.
Oh, we got to talk about that later. Purdue. All right, anyway, go ahead.
So when I went, my classes, my IT classes, it was one of 300 students. I sat in the balcony and I did the crossword puzzle. I didn't learn anything. A lot of my classes were taught by TAs, graduate students. You didn't see the professor. So my classes are capped at 30 students. So immediately you're going to be one of 30 students sitting in my classroom. And not only that, we was talking to one of my colleagues, and we talk about, not to knock the liberal arts crowd, but if you're teaching Shakespeare in liberal arts, Shakespeare hasn't changed in hundreds of years. Sure, maybe you find a new text, maybe you need to change it. But guess what? By the time we get a course created, by the time we get the textbook, it can be out of date, let alone in cybersecurity. And we have to go through a 6 to 9 month process. It's because higher ed is great with our bureaucracy, but we've got to get these courses approved and go through curriculum committees and go through the general rigmarole. And by the time we get through that process, it can be out of date. So what we like to do, and is where we brought your product in, the red versus blue, and we've done it with other technical firms, is we like to bring the product directly in so that the students can work on it hands-on. So not only does it help the vendor, because guess what? Now they have a couple hundred students graduating who've worked on their technology and go out to the job and go, hey, boss, we need cybersecurity. Guess what tool I worked on when I was at school? But we also then get to say, there's a tool that we're teaching, and we're the first and only higher education institution that is teaching the tool. So we're getting to say we're the people teaching with this tool, and then they know that we're pumping out potential customers.
Right.
And that's how we like to team it together. And that's really what we like to do, is a little bit of that different. So with only 30 students in my class, you're gonna get hands-on experience. And once we're starting in the fall to get back into in-person classes, guess what? In our labs, you're gonna have a full professor, tenured, who's been doing it for 20 years, who's going to be helping you and going to be looking over your shoulder as you're doing the lab. And then our adjunct professors, they're all doing it right now. We have a several layer up CCNA who teaches our intro to networking course. The guy could do it with his eyes closed, but he wants to give back to the college because he's a college graduate, and he works for, I think he works actually for Sprint now, and he's one of their higher level executive engineers.
That's what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like that approach, and let me take your analogy with Shakespeare to point out why I like it so much. I've read Shakespeare, and it bores me to death. And then I went to a play that was based on a Shakespeare novel or a play, and it interested me because you see it, you visualize. That's how you should teach these things. A textbook is most of the time is boring. A textbook telling you type in Nmap dash blah 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 is not going to be the same as you actually going out and running that Nmap scan on a live system. So yeah, absolutely, that's the way you should teach. I think, in my opinion, just about anything.
And I don't want to knock my liberal arts friends, because I don't like that the arts are being cut out of our programs, because I have students come to me and they say, well, I don't have any IT experience. I actually hired a woman to do call center work and to work on desktops. She had no IT experience, but she had done improv comedy. And I said, oh, great. You're going to be working with customers. You can think on your feet and you can react. Everything else technical, I can teach you. You're a blank slate to me, but you have a good personality. So those communication skills, the soft skills, the writing skills, the speaking to other people, the just being able to look at someone in the face and talk to them, those talents and those traits are just as powerful.
That's how I got my job. I got my job with you.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I have a terrible track record for hiring people with good personalities. I mean,
you went wrong with me then.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, changing Shakespeare, I have to disagree a little bit. Leonardo DiCaprio changed Shakespeare for the worst.
God, I hated that movie. I hated that movie.
I'm not going to admit that I watched it. I just know about it.
Oh, I was forced to watch it.
You're going to admit that you watch it once a week.
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio. You know Leonardo DiCaprio's best line out of any of his movies? Bloop, 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 bloop. Anyway, as he drowns. Anyway, all right. So, man, we just digressed, didn't we? So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about. And this is not a request for a shameless plug. I'm actually curious. So when you talked about hands-on and you talk about these tools, do you guys, how hands-on, and I'm not just saying you can speak for you can speak for other colleges that focus on workforce development. How much hands-on do you focus on in terms of, obviously, and I'm a big believer that multiple choice is not the way to go educating cybersecurity.
No.
So, how far do you go in terms of proving you can do what you can do? How much hands-on do you get? Like, you're using the tools, or be using the fields? Do you actually use equipment? And obviously, I'm not, when I say equipment, I'm talking OT and ICS, but I mean, are they actually doing pen testing or assessments? I mean, how hands-on do you get?
So we have it's a product, and it's called NetLab, and it's used a lot in networking programs. And NetLab is basically just a scheduling front end, and it's a web console for students to come in and schedule time in the labs. And what NetLab is, just a front end to schedule times for any network accessible equipment. So we have racks upon racks of Cisco routers that students they are learning in the Cisco environment through the command line, using packet tracer, using, you said Nmap. They're using those tools and configuring the actual networks using the real life Cisco switches. So the difficulty is these sit on a college corporate network environment. We have to be very isolated because our students can break these things. One of the other tools that we use is it is a very advanced honeypot, and our students get in there, and the goal is, once we get back on campus, is to have the students launch an attack against a computer. They then log into the honeypot, see how it looks, look at the console, look at the dashboard, and then remediate it from the honeypot. We have other courses where they're server-based, where they're working on Windows Server. So we work with the publishers who host the live environments, so that actually is on their end, where the live environments, they can log into live Windows Server 2016. We teach VMware, where students actually have to set up the vSphere, connect the nodes, and then upgrade them. So our goal in especially our AS classes is to get as much hands-on environment as possible. Once you move on into year 3 and year 4 of your bachelor's, that's when you get more of the complicated math. That's where you get some of the discrete math, the databasing. But we want to get our students in there actually doing something. And
I got a quick question on that. So when I went to school, they taught me PLC programming on like a MS-DOS based. I don't even know it was a major brand. And then I got out of school, and the first thing I encountered was Step 7. And it was such a huge difference between what you're being taught and what's out there. How do you keep up to date with that? Or do you keep up to date with that?
We know actively that we're on the academic side. We're not out there doing it. So we engage with our industry partners, and we have an advisory board. And we have about 40 to 50 different companies. Some of them are nationally, we have Deloitte, we have AAA, we have Darden Brands, and we have a couple different military contractors, and they meet with us twice a year. We usually try and do one in person and one online, and they tell us what items we should have in our curriculum. So what we don't want to do is, like I said, my product. I don't want to put out my product, which is my student, and you go, well, I don't want this. I didn't buy this. I didn't pay for this. We want you to say, help us design the product. Help us put the features on it that you want. Remember in The Simpsons where Homer built the car with 22 cup holders and all the coins? Yeah. So we want to make sure that the product that you're getting is actually what you want. So we work with those advisory board members. A couple of years ago, I reworked all my curriculum. And before I went anywhere with my curriculum, I met with those specific advisory board members and said, what do you want a 2-year student to look like? What do you want them to know? Now, of course, they drop 100 things on us, and we have to say, okay, you get 10.
I want 40 years of experience.
Yeah, right out of college.
Right out of college.
Yeah. Well, okay, well, let's talk. Well, that brings up a good point, because obviously, what our viewers are going to really want to know is, any of our viewers that are looking at a cybersecurity career, right? And I have people come to me all the time say, hey, I'm looking at a career change, or I want to get into cybersecurity, and I give them what I think. But my path was different than, I guarantee you, Pascal's path and my path look very different from what anybody's path is going to look like nowadays, because times have changed, right? I mean, I literally social engineered my way into this career, but it worked out, right? I mean, I have, I learned, and I'm still fooling people. So, but anyway, the bottom line is if someone was to come to you right now and they, and say, well, what are all those people you talk to that you just mentioned about? What are you looking for in that product, that person? What are the top level things? If someone was to ask you, what do I need to do to start a cybersecurity career? What do I need to learn? What classes do I need to take? Outside of saying, join my class, what are the things that employers are looking for cybersecurity entry levels, college graduates kind of people?
So I had this exact meeting last week with one of my students. I met with a woman. She is a office assistant at the college. She's probably in her late 40s. She wants to get into cybersecurity because she doesn't make squat being an office assistant. She doesn't like it. She's been with the college.
Were you talking to the same lady I was talking to? Because that's the exact same situation. A lady I know is in the same situation, same job. Okay, so go ahead.
No, because and what you have to point, and they say to you, well, I know nothing about IT, but I really want to get into IT, and I want to get into cybersecurity. And what you have to point out to them, because we all know we can be our worst enemies. Well, I don't know anything. I'm 40 years old. I've already done this. But that's your advantage. As I told her, I was like, you're not 22 coming out of college. If I hire you to do the job, I know you're going to get to work on time. I know you're not going to screw around. I know you're dependable. I know you know how to learn. And I know that you can communicate to people because you work the front office. So those basic people skills. And then you get into the fact of like, okay, so you've taken these classes. You've already, maybe you went to college already. Maybe you didn't go to college. Either way, once you get to that point where you have a mortgage and you have to pay for a car, life gets really serious real fast. So as an employer, those students sometimes carry more value than just the 22-year-old who's got a piece of paper behind them that says, yeah, I took all these classes. Now I don't know how to get an apartment or to get a place to live or to even apply for a job. So a lot of times what we see, and especially what I see, is you're a non-traditional student who wants to make this major shift in their life, but they're intimidated by the fact, and I hear it all the time, well, I'm not good at math. I don't like math.
Yeah, that's the big thing. People, when you talk about being a programmer, going to cybersecurity, people say, well, I'm not good at math.
We go to high schools, and a lot of times we get students go, well, I want to go into video games. Okay, so do you program? No. Are you artistic? No. So let's talk about some other things you can do in games. And that's where we talk about hosting, we talk about web services, we talk about security. Yeah. You can be involved. And that's what I try and point out to these potential students. Just because you want to be in cybersecurity doesn't mean you have to be the button pusher who's staring at the console, who's staring at the information management, and is tracking down the bad guys. There's a myriad of jobs involved in cybersecurity.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And well, going back to the video game thing, is what I find whenever somebody says, I want to get into video games, they don't want to program. They don't want to build the games. They don't want to make the games.
They want to play.
They just want to play games. It's like, you know what? Go get yourself a $30,000 a year job being a beta tester. Watch Grandma's Boy. Then you're going to be happy, but you're not going to be
that's a horrible job because you're playing the same level 100 times looking for the bugs. That's even worse than answering the phone all day.
Yeah, exactly. But so in cybersecurity, though, you make a good point, right? In cybersecurity, you can be technical, you can be more policy governance based, you can be more architecture, engineering, management, sales. Right? So sales. Cybersecurity is its own ecosystem.
And that's the one I point out to people too. I'm like, you know how to interact with people. You have a really great personality. You can sell this. And they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, they're not going to put nerds out in the field trying to sell cybersecurity. No one wants to buy from a nerd.
I beg the difference. But this is what I typically, when people come to me and they say, hey, I want to get started in cybersecurity, where do I begin? I respond with saying, You got to figure out what you want in cybersecurity. What do you like? Do you
That's a good
like
point.
offensive? Do you like defensive? Do you like building stuff? Do you like breaking stuff? You got to figure out, because I started really, really broad. I studied anything I could find. And mind you, when I first started, there were like 3 books that I could find on the market that even described cybersecurity.
So
But I
I will,
slowly
Yeah.
found my way into what I really enjoy doing. And I suggest that's the first thing you do, because it took me way too long.
in working with students, you are exactly right. But in working with students, you have to boil it down even further. And what I say to them is you have to pick which side, but you have
Mhm.
one of 2 things that you can do. To make good money, you either have to be really good at doing the thing, or you have to be really good at managing the people who do the thing. So that's how I boil it down to them, is if you want to do the thing, and you're right, all the different machinations and all the specifics, if you get really good at that, you could make a good salary and have job security. Or, and this is where I lie on it, you can manage and work with the teams of the people who are really good at that. Because, and I think it was actually McAfee who talked about it, managing cybersecurity people are different. Your good cybersecurity people don't work 9 to 5. They don't wear suits.
See, I keep telling you that.
They want to work their own schedules.
You don't know what a suit is, Pascal? Okay.
But that's the thing. As we and hopefully maybe our current working environment is maybe going to spur some of that up. Okay, we can get good cybersecurity professionals, but we don't need them in the office from 9 to 5. Because as we know from your experience, when there's a security, the last thing you want is an IT guy, especially a cybersecurity guy, running around crazy. You want him sitting in his desk with his feet up, looking bored. But when the stuff hits the fan, they've got to work, and we've all done it. You work no matter how many days in a row until it's fixed.
Yep.
So
that's what I call give and take, right? On one side, if there's nothing to do, it's easy. Take it easy. Go do something you like to do on the side. Do a hack the box exercise. But once shit hits the fan, you better be there and be ready to tackle stuff.
Yeah, and that's where the management piece comes in. Just because they don't look busy doesn't mean they're not doing anything.
There's a middle way. You can do both. You can manage and have hands on, and it's called a managing director. Shameless plug.
Yeah, that's your own personal shameless plug there.
Yeah, but I'll call that an oxymoron. That's kind of like a jumbo shrimp or a student athlete.
I just call Pascal a moron.
Hey, you both called me a moron. Thanks a lot.
That's cost savings.
So I think the common denominator, regardless of, if you want to be managerial in architecture, policy, governance, or technical, the common denominator for all security jobs is that you need to have knowledge of the cybersecurity basics, right? So if you're going to be sales, you don't even really need to have the basic knowledge of programming or even IT. You just need to understand the security concepts. So what would you say what would you say you do here? Well, what's the common denominator of the cybersecurity baseline, that knowledge, that baseline of cybersecurity? So if somebody's going to say, I want to get into cybersecurity, but I'm not good at math. I don't know IT. I don't whatever. What do you do to get them that general cybersecurity knowledge baseline that is the common denominator of all jobs in cybersecurity?
Well, the guy who owns the gym where I work out, we talk about it, and he's in health and fitness. So health and fitness and working in IT are similar. It's a willingness to continue to learn. It's always changing. So, but you talk about that baseline. When I have students, no matter their age, that come to me, because Florida has a really cool system. We have a dual enrollment system. So when you go into high school at 14 years old, you can start working on your associate's degree. So you could graduate high school with your associate's degree completely.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that is cool.
It's cool. Yes, it's nice. I have some concerns with, but it's really cool for the fact that you can be way ahead.
He brings it up and then he chastises me for saying it's cool.
It's cool. I had a lot of fun in college, so I don't want to take that away from kids who are going to college, but it's great for the fact, and they don't pay for those. So you could have your associates for free because it's paid for by the state. But what I point students towards is having that networking, So being able to understand and know the concepts of networking. I don't need you to
Okay.
set up a router or run switches or do
Know what
command line.
TCP/IP is. Know the basic protocols. Know how it works.
Being able to program, even if it's just Python programming, Java programming. I learned Visual Basic, but those concepts of programming, databasing, which often gets left out, because think about it, every piece of software you touch on the back end in reality is a database. And then when students get comfortable with that, I say, okay, now it's time for you to hit that Security Plus, because that Security Plus, it starts you from the beginning, and it will get you through all those basic concepts that it gets you all the vocab, and it's incredibly valuable for $500.
That's what I did. I did Network Plus, and then I went Security Plus, and during Security Plus, I taught myself some PowerShell, some Python, and all that stuff. Yeah, that's fantastic little.
And let me guess, when you got Security Plus, you probably got job offers, right?
Yeah, at least in the direction that I wanted it.
Interesting.
Yep. I got it. I got Security Plus. Didn't even put my resume out there and got 3 job offers.
Because here's the deal. Because even if you're just going to do sales or management, the baseline skills that you do in that Network Plus and Security Plus and all that, that's gonna get you able to talk, walk the walk in terms of knowing the lingo and stuff like that. Yeah, because I agree with you. Understanding the basics of programming, understanding the basics of networking gives you a better foundation to understand how security works, why security works, why you need it, and things like that. So look, we're at a quarter after, which means that went fast. But look, we're not going to end it here. So everybody don't go away too. Stop leaving. Stop. I see people are leaving. Stop leaving.
Come back. Mom, come back.
I will hunt you down. I will take you down to Chinatown. All right. So anyway,
not let me talk anymore.
So I normally what we do in the last 15 minutes of the hour is kind of we give our guests the opportunity to talk about some of the things that they're doing in their programs or talk about their company, their product, or whatever it is. So it's our guest time. And this is your shameless plug time, but I'm going to infringe a little bit on your shameless plug time, just a little bit, because, and I'm going to have a shameless plug. So I want to know what number one, this is your time to talk about, what are you doing at Seminole State College of Florida that you're proud of? Some of the programs you're doing, but we've been talking about that a lot too. But one of the things I just want to ask you a question. You guys are Red versus Blue customers. You use Red versus Blue in your cybersecurity course and in some events and things like that. And I don't get to talk to you that often about it. I'm not especially now that you're high and mighty dean. I'm going to talk
to you even less.
Yeah. So, but I do want to know, how are you guys using Red versus Blue, and where do you see gamification in the future of cybersecurity education? And then you can just take that wherever you want.
I thought that's what we were doing for the last 45 minutes. Is me
it pretty much was. Okay. Yeah.
So we joked about students saying, well, I want to be involved in video games. No. Even at our age, guess what we grew up on? We grew up on video games. This generation, you and I have kids about the same age. Guess what they do? They play video games. So we have to meet our students. Yeah, we have to meet our students where they are. So what Red versus Blue does is it's like when you sneak those vegetables into cupcakes and things like that. You're learning, but you're playing a video game. We just don't tell them that they're learning. And what I find in a lot of my classes is students will go, after the class is over, they'll go, well, why can't I access the game anymore? I'm like, because it was paid for by your lab fees during the course. They're like, oh, crap. And then I give them the link to Steam, and then they go out and buy it for themselves. So the game actually allows us to meet our students where they are and to get the basics and the concepts. And then it also allows them to interact, because I have them play in games against their other classmates and other teammates. But one of the things that we're doing specifically at Seminole State, and one of the things that I'm actually working hard at and very proud of for our entire faculty, is last year we got an award. There's an award, it's called the Aspen Award. And the Aspen Award is awarded every year to the best community college in the nation. So it's like the Heisman for community colleges. And
Nice.
we won the Aspen Award for excellence in diversity because of the
Nice.
programs that we had put forth to try and so your diverse population and to improve the diversity of your programs. So that was part of, we took some of that money and bought the red versus blue licenses, because not only is it, you're talking about diversity, male, female, white, non-white, but also your homeless students, your lower income students, your first time in college students. They may not have access or the ability to get on campus and work on one of our computers. So red versus blue allows them to access these tools from wherever. And it's browser based, so they don't need to install. They don't need a real heavy computer to run it. They just need a browser. And they can, I think, I haven't had any of them run it from a mobile device yet, or yet they haven't.
Not yet. That is coming, though. We do have the Android. We've been saying for a year we're going to have Android, but it is coming.
And one of the biggest jokes that I make is, working in IT, you don't want a bunch of white guys sitting around in a dark room with neck beards, because if you have that, you're going to get the same answers over and over and over again. You're not going to get unique solutions. So we're actively working with groups, local groups, and then national groups. We work with National Center for Women in Technology. We're going to work with, it's a group called Black Orlando Tech, because when we have students come into our programs, what we're trying to do is our minority students, we want them to see someone who looks like them, be them a female or African American or Latino, and say, oh, that person looks like me. They're in the position where I want to be. Now I know I can get there. So that's what we're, with this grant money that we got, we're spending to boost our programs to increase our diversity numbers. And that's an area that we're really proud of and that we're working on. In fact, in our office, in our main office, we have a bright red chair. And that chair is from the National Center for Women in Technology. It's so when people come in and they look at the office furniture and they go, why do you have that bright red chair over there? And then it's a conversation starter and we can talk about it. So that's one of the areas
Nice.
that we're really focusing on.
That's awesome. Normally we had a late question that came after our quarter of the hour, but I think it's good. And I don't know that you deal with the OT so much, but somebody asked, I have a huge budget basically to build an OT cybersecurity lab. Any advice? Now, I don't know if you deal specifically in OT. If not, that's a question that Pascal and I can answer.
So I'll give one thing and then I'll be quiet because you guys are experts on this. We have a partnership that we're working on with Universal Studios, and we're training their engineering technicians in engineering concepts. And I'm trying to get the IT people involved, because think about what a ride is. A ride at Universal. A ride is a closed network with sensors and controllers, variable speed controllers, all that mechanical stuff works together. So think about if that local network is compromised, the damage that you could do. So I think it'll be a really great partnership to start spreading it out into the technical aspect there. I'll let you guys handle the OT stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, I was answering. Basically, my answer is I'll say this. So Fadi, we would love to talk to you more, after this, in terms of, because we're running out of time. We'll be happy to talk to you and give you more advice. And we promise not to just try to sell ThreatGen and Red versus Blue to you. We'll give you honest conversation. Reach out to Robert and we can talk to you, about how to flesh out your own, because there's a lot of things out there and a lot of programs out there that are great examples on how to build such a lab, and we can point you in the right direction, obviously, yeah, we would love to see Red versus Blue in your lab as well, but we're not going to go. We will point you in the right direction with the right equipment, and we'll try to talk about that here a little bit too. But for example, University of Houston is one of the OT cybersecurity programs that I really like, and the way that they've done it. And we can hook you up with University of Houston, some of the students there and some of the staff, and Dr. Art Conklin on how they did it, but they built this huge cyber wall and everything like that, because there's a multitude of things you need in your OT cybersecurity lab. You have to think about what are the different types of processes you're going to be, wanting to get into and teach. What's the different types of equipment and vendors you're going to work? Do you want Siemens? Do you want Rockwell? Do you want, because all these things have a little bit, there's differences, there's different purposes. Pascal can talk about that more, but ultimately in the end, it's hard to give specific advice without knowing exactly what the purpose of your lab is, because OT is, as Adam just mentioned, right? I mean, processes are everywhere. ICS is everywhere. And so you have to understand what you want to do first before we can really give you too much advice on what to do with all that money for your OT cybersecurity program. You want to build on that, Pascal?
I was just going to say, yeah, reach out if you want to know more. And the first thing I'm going to ask is, what's this for? Are you like an ICS owner yourself? Do you have already a process in place? Then your lab should probably be a mirror of what you already have. So you can do testing, you can do probing on something that resembles what you're running your production on. If this is purely so you can bring in students, then that's a different discussion. And we probably want to touch on the more different technologies we can bring in, the better. So let's have that discussion. Let's see where you want to go with this, and we'll give you our honest advice.
Yeah, that's one thing that we definitely pride ourselves on is, I mean, if when customers come to us for anything, whether it's our services, our products, or whatever, if we don't have what you're looking for, we know who has what you're looking for. We'll point you in the right direction.
Exactly.
So Adam, I mean, before we wrap this up, we have, this is probably going. It's funny that, we every week we find that our conversations are getting longer and longer, and I just think that when it comes to education and academic, cybersecurity education and training and everything, there's so much ground to cover, and it's such a broad field. And there's so many people that want to get into cybersecurity that, I mean, we could spend an entire afternoon on an episode talking about this and going through all the facets. I think this is probably going to end up being one of our most viewed episodes, just because, I mean, we talked about a lot of useful stuff today for people wanting to get into cybersecurity, and so I think at the end of the day, it's about understanding what you want to do with cybersecurity and understanding where to start. So any final advice, any final words before we wrap this up?
Well, I would say no matter what your background is, because a lot of people are coming to cybersecurity either as a second career or maybe like a career and a half. They started out a couple years in something and didn't like it. Don't discount whatever your background is. That background that you have, even if it's just your personal background, your life history, whatever you've lived and learned, that's valuable. And especially in cybersecurity, because like we talked about it spreads across all facets of the business, across the organization. So don't discount yourself because I didn't go to college until late in life, or don't discount yourself because I got a liberal arts degree or I got a history degree. You have transferable, marketable skills. Because let's face it, in Florida alone, there are 22,000 jobs that are open in Florida. And those jobs are concentrated in those metropolitan areas. It's almost 500,000 jobs across the United States. We need the people, and we need good people. We're not just trying to throw bodies at the problem and throw money at it. So don't shortchange yourself just because I don't like math or I don't really like computers. You have valuable skills that transfer in and can make you a good cybersecurity professional.
Outstanding advice. And even if you're not good people, you can still get a job. Look at Pascal.
Yeah, look at that. Hold on. Just one little advice on top of that. The only quality I say that you will find and you probably need if you want to go anywhere in cybersecurity is curiosity. You have to be curious, and I think that's the only prerequisite you need.
Yep. Listen, everybody, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us, Adam Stark. Now, I hope I got it right earlier, Dean of the College of Computer Engineering.
Dean of Engineering and Computer Technology.
Engineering and Computer Technology. I got the banner wrong, but it's close enough, hopefully. Is your marketing department not gonna want to use this now?
I'll just say it again. The Dean of Engineering and Computer Technology.
Yeah, that's okay. There you go. Because earlier I had the scrolling banner and I got the title a little little bit wrong there.
Okay, we're gonna have to redo this.
You're
whole episode.
mad at me now, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to start over, like Pascal
Yep.
said.
Yeah, we just start over.
Rewind.
I mean, so anyway, okay, so I apologize to anybody out there that doesn't like that scroll the banner. So we've corrected that. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. This was a great discussion, and we probably need to have more discussion on cybersecurity education and career path in the future, because I think that's something that's really needed. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Thanks, Adam. And
Thank
we
you.
will see you next week, hopefully.